So you're shooting your wedding, your event, your photo shoot with your trusted 24 to 70 2.8 or f4 lens, and you just need a little more reach. Well, in this lens review, I might have the solution for you. The 24 to 120 VR f4 by Nikon in this Vahography lens review. Coming right up. Rock and roll. What's good, guys? This is Vahography. I'm Vahagan, your rock and roll photographer. This is my official review of the Nikon 24 to 120 f4 VR zoom lens. In this review, we're going to go through the specs of this lens. I'm also going to take you out to a real world photo shoot where I had an event, I took this lens, and I thought, you know what, let me take some photo samples for you guys. We'll also be doing, of course, some video clips with this lens, and I'm going to go through all the features and why this is a beautiful lens to have in your camera bag as your main go-to walk around, all around lens, or an amazing backup to your 24 to 70. So you guys ready? Let's get started. A lot of photographers, they overlook this lens, either because they already have the 24 to 70 or they just don't know about this lens. This is a cool lens. I purchased this lens, I would say about a year ago, and bought it used, of course. I got a really good deal on it. Picked it up a year ago for about a little under $500. I figured, you know, sometimes at events, I have an amazing 24 to 70 lens. I have that lens and I use it all the time. That's my go-to, the 2.8 G lens. That's my go-to when I'm shooting DSLR, wedding, event, photo shoot, you name it. Well, it's a really good walk around lens. However, why I purchased this lens, I needed a solid backup to that 24 to 70. You always want to have a backup if you're doing professional work. You don't only want to have one 24 to 70 lens in your kit. What if something goes wrong? What if that lens breaks or you drop it, it stops autofocusing, you name it? I had a friend, he had this lens and he would always boast about how light of a lens this is. Actually, it's not that light, but it's a lot lighter than my 24 to 70, I'll tell you that. About 200 grams lighter than the 24 to 70 2.8 G. So you're at 24 millimeters on the widest angle of this lens. You could zoom all the way up to 120 millimeters. That's 5 times. So sometimes when I'm shooting weddings, 24-70, everyone's dancing, and by the way, I use that lens a lot at the reception. They're dancing, they're getting their groove on, and I'm walking around shooting, the party. Sometimes I need a little more reach. So I said, you know what? Let me try this lens out. So I picked it up. That's the main reason why I bought this lens. 2 reasons, like I said. Number 1, of course, more reach. Number 2, solid backup in my bag. And it's a VR lens. My 2.8 G is not the original, is not a VR lens. This is a VR lens. And a little bit later in this video, I will show you just how good the VR works on this guy right here. I took some sample images with VR on and off, and I'll show you both samples a little later in this video. Let's talk price for a second. They sell brand new right now retail for about $1,100, just a little under that. But surprisingly enough, you see this lens used sometimes on Craigslist, eBay. They sell for about $400 to $500. If you get lucky in good condition, you can buy one for about $400. As far as weight goes, like I mentioned earlier, it's a little lighter than your 24 to 70 2.8 lens, the G lens. This is an f4. You won't notice right off the bat the weight difference. However, if you're working a wedding, let's say, 2, 3, 4 hours at the reception, sometimes longer, and you're shooting dancing, this can come in handy a little lighter. And by the way, guys, when I'm shooting a wedding reception, I hardly ever shoot at 2.8. Hardly ever. Do I shoot, like I said, I don't shoot at 2.8, and I stop it down to 5.6, even lower sometimes. So the 2.8 really doesn't matter. I rather have reach, and this lens does the job. Not to say I don't use my 24-70. I use that more than this, obviously. The main role of this lens right now for me is a solid backup. However, like I said, if I'm thinking I'm gonna need more reach, this is a really good option for me in my photography. Now, if you're doing weddings, events, it's a perfect walk around lens. It covers, like I said, 24 to 120 range. A little bit later in this video, I'm going to show you the difference between 24 and 120, and I'll show you how much of a difference that makes in the picture. Now, as far as quality goes, in my photography, I would probably just use this at a event, at a reception hall, people dancing, right? I wouldn't use this for portraits. I have portrait lenses for that. I have my 7200, 85. I'd much rather use those type of lenses for portraiture. I would not use this lens. That being said, doesn't mean you can't use this for portraits as well. But I don't choose to use this for a portrait lens. Some other details about this lens: it has 3 switches on the side here. One controls auto and manual focus, VR on and off, and active and normal VR modes. And when you zoom in, the lens extends out like that. The body, that's probably the thing I do not like about this lens. It just extends out like that, and then you can imagine the hood right on here. And the hood is not that small. I'll show you guys a little later. And it's got 77mm filter threads. That's a good thing because my 24-70 has 77 as well. This particular lens is made in Thailand, not Japan. Made in Thailand. When you're doing video, when you want to zoom in and zoom out, it's not as smooth as I want it to be. That being said, for photography, not a problem. You can use this, no problem whatsoever. All right, before we go further in this review, let's go over the specs in detail of the Nikon 24-120 f4 VR zoom full frame lens. While I show you the specs on this video, I'm going to tell you a little story, a situation I had while shooting a concert. I was on stage covering a concert for a customer's band at a club, and I guess the security didn't know I was the photographer for the band, and he restricted access to where my bags were, my lenses were. So I had this lens, the 24-120, mounted on the camera at the time. During the second or third, I think it was the third song, I was stuck with this lens. He wouldn't let me down to get my lenses, to get my other lenses. So, making light of the situation, I couldn't sit there and argue with the guy. The band only had 6 or 7 songs to go, and I couldn't waste time. So I made the best out of what I had. The 24, the 120 came in handy. The extra reach got the job done. Now, if I had the 24-70 on at the time, I know I would have been a little restricted, but normally when I shoot concerts, I like to have a fast prime with me. And luckily I did. I put the 50mm 1.4 in my pocket. That thing is small, nifty. That's why they call it a nifty 50. That saved the day because I would have hated myself for being stuck with an f4 at a dark club. Now, luckily for me, the dude that was security let me in the last 3 songs where I had my fisheye, my 7200. So anyway, guys, you just never know if you're going to be stuck somewhere at a concert or you're in an island and you just have one lens. That being said, I'm not saying this lens has the best image quality. It's good, yes. It's sharp. Is it the best optimal performance as far as image quality? Would I choose this lens over others? No, I would not. However, it just gets the job done. It's good for what it is. A lot of lens elements and groups, huh guys, with this lens? Alright guys, let me take you out to that birthday party I photographed a couple of days ago. It was a real world event that I was scheduled to shoot. It was a paid gig. So let me take you out there and let me show you some samples of those images I took with this lens at that party. Alright guys, I got the 24-120 f4 Nikon right here. I'm actually photographing a birthday party today. This is a real world gig, real world paid
event that I'm photographing today, but I'll get a chance to shoot some images for this video for the review of the 24 to 120 f4. So let's rock and roll.
So the first example is a shot at 24 millimeters, just a generic shot, and this with that lens at 120 millimeters so you could see the difference. Next up, I put the 24 to 70 on at 70 millimeters so you could see the difference at 70 versus 120. I'm telling you, you get a lot more reach as you see the sample images. Moving on to VR test. This is VR off. I crop the image and look at the difference VR on at 1/10 of a second shutter speed. It was very dark, and shooting it at 1/10 of a second, it does a really good job. This is Nikon's VR2 technology. The 24 to 70 2.8 G lens, a much more expensive lens, version 1 has no VR, so that's a plus on the 24 to 120 side of things. Pay attention to these results at 1/8 of a second. Look at the sharpness at 1/8 of a second at 120 millimeters. Look at the difference here. And here's one side by side so you can just see the difference VR makes. Next up, I'm going to compare reach once again. This is at 24 millimeters and shot at the same position. I zoomed in at 120 so you can see the difference. Hey, that kid was pretty good. That instrument he's playing, it's called a dahol. It's an Armenian old traditional wooden hand drum instrument. It sounds amazing. Took some portraits of the kid at 28 millimeters, and here's a shot natural light with the 24 to 120 capturing the candle light. All right, guys, welcome back. So what did you guys think? Big difference, huh? From a 120 millimeter to a 70 millimeter. You don't have to be a wedding photographer or an event photographer to enjoy this lens. This is an all-purpose lens. It's good for travel. You're going on vacation. You want something with a good range. Let me bring up the example of going to the zoo, right? Sometimes you're out with family and you want to go to the zoo. You don't want to bring out the 7200. You're limited in range, and plus it's heavy, it's long, it's big. You don't want to drag that thing out to the zoo. This is a perfect lens for that. You cover the wides and you get a little more reach, at 120 millimeters. It's a good lens for that, vacationing, you name it. So you don't really have to be a professional photographer to take advantage of this lens. Obviously, it's not a cheap lens, brand new. Like I said, $1,100. But, like I said, you can pick one up used for a good price. You have DSLRs, Nikon DSLRs. Go ahead and get one. It's well worth it. Before I move on with this review, if you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, Vahography. This is a channel where we talk all things photography reviews like this one, gear reviews, camera lenses, tutorials, how-tos, the business side of photography, you name it. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. Subscribe and also hit the like button. The more likes we get on videos, the more people see the videos, the more subscribers we have, the channel grows, and we can bring you bigger and better content in the future. So hit the like button, subscribe, and also hit the bell notification to be notified when we upload new videos. Thanks, guys. So over here, I have the lens. I have a 24 to 70 2.8 G mounted on a DSLR with the hood, and the lens we're reviewing right here, the 24 to 105 VR f4 lens. So I wanted you guys to see the difference when mounted, both lenses, what they look like and how long they are. Like I said again, with the 24 to 105 f4, the only drawback to this lens is this part. I'm not a big fan of lenses that do this. I'm not a big fan of that at all. The flip side of that is more reach, and I'll take more reach over this any day of the week. So, it's well worth it. This is the hood it comes with. the HB53 lens hood. Don't do this when you have the lens extended out and you want to put it on the table, you know. Don't do that, guys. That's the only thing I don't like about the lens, that there's no resistance there to stop that from happening. And the 24-70, as you see here, when you zoom, it's covered. The hood is covered. It's a better design, and you don't really see the lens body moving in and out when you're zooming. So I like that about this lens. You could be at, let's say, 70 millimeters, and you can just lay this on the table like that, and it won't do what this thing just did. So, and one quick thing about this hood, I found out that actually the other day when I was shooting that gig, I was like, you know what? Let me see if this hood will work on this lens. And it did. It worked on this lens. It actually attached. I mean, it doesn't click like that one does, because this is the HB40 that comes with the 24-70 2.8 lens. You can actually take it out without pressing the little button here. However, it will work. The Z6, Z7 mirrorless. Okay, this lens is an AFS. The 24-120 f4 VR is an AFS lens. Everything will work with the mirrorless system with an FTZ adapter. There are other options to Z mirrorless lenses if you want range. Nikon makes a 24-200, a full frame lens. That lens is $900. It's a great lens. However, the only drawback to it, it's not a fixed aperture lens. It's an f4 to 6.3, I believe. 24-120 is a constant f4. So even at 120, you'll be shooting at f4 the whole time. Okay, as always, I like to do video clips on my lens reviews. The Nikon 24-120 f4 VR lens. Right now I have the lens set at 24 millimeters, the widest this lens can record. I'm going to be zooming in a little bit, and I'm going to show you what 5 times magnification at 120 looks like when shooting video clips. So right now we're recording at 24 millimeters, the widest that this lens can record. Now we'll move it up a little bit. Okay, right now we're recording at 50 millimeters. I zoomed in a little bit on the lens. And by the way, I'm at f4. I'm gonna be shooting constant at f4. Widest aperture on this lens. So we're at 50 millimeters. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little more. Okay, right now we're recording at 85 millimeters. So the key selling point to this all-around, walk-around Nikon zoom lens is the extra reach you get versus a 24-70. So I'm going to be recording the next clip all the way in at 120 millimeters. So we did 24, we did 50, and now 85. And right now, coming up next, 120 millimeters. All right, 120 millimeters, zoomed in all the way, guys. We started at 24, now we're at 120. That's 5 times. However, there are some drawbacks when using this lens for video. The zoom is not as smooth as I like. Maybe it's my copy, but when you're zooming in while you're recording, it's not as smooth. It's kind of jittery. The ring is kind of tight. So right now what I want to do is put the 24-70 2.8 G lens on the camera, record some video clips at 24 millimeters. I maybe zoom in all the way to 70. You guys see the difference, both lenses video clips, and see the reach difference. You saw the reach difference with photos, but now we're doing clips. Why not do the same experiment while doing video clips? All right, the world famous Nikon 24-70 2.8 G on the camera right now. Let's start a split screen right now and put the 24-120, the lens we're reviewing, side by side. So you see the difference at 24 millimeters. I wanted to exclusively feature this 24-70 lens on this lens review of the 24 to 120 only because a lot of professional photographers, they use the 24 to 70 2.8 lens. So me included, I mean, contemplating should I get the 24 to 120? I already have the 24-70. So, and last but not least, 70 millimeters on the 24 to 70. Again, I want you to see the reach difference on both lenses. So you want more reach, you know, you wish you had more reach with the 24 to 70 when you're doing photography or video. Well, that's the differences between the reach when you're doing video clips. If you're gonna do video, I wouldn't go with this lens. I would not choose this lens if your whole thing is video, if you do video clips. The 24 to 200 is a better option for you to choose when you're primarily doing video on a mirrorless system. So, you know, yeah, it is a variable aperture lens, but you know, that's really not a deal breaker. All right, it's time to wrap up this review of the Nikon 24 to 120 f4 VR lens. So what did you guys think? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you want to buy this lens and what you think of this lens if you currently own this guy right here. All right, everyone, that's my review of the Nikon 24 to 120 f4 VR zoom full frame lens. Go ahead and subscribe to Vahography if you haven't done so already. Quick thing, guys, before I wrap up. I'm wearing a Van Halen t-shirt. I grew up listening to Van Halen. A few months back, we lost the guitar player, Eddie Van Halen. And actually, I made a video right when he passed away. I went over to his childhood home in California, and I have a video on Vahography, and I just basically, you know, went to his house, did some shots, talked about Eddie Van Halen. If you want to check out that video, click the link above. But yeah, amazing guitar player, one of the best in the world, Eddie Van Halen. He will be missed. All right, guys and gals, thanks for watching once again. I really appreciated my review of the Nikon zoom lens 24 to 120. This is Vahography. I'm Vahagan, your rock and roll photographer, and we'll see you on the next video. Rock and roll.